It just reached 50 degrees here and it is really glorious. The sun is just coming right through the door, right there. Feels great. I've been thinking about this story, which has very little to do with preparedness. So if you don't want to listen to it, that's fine. I've been thinking about this story for a while because I think it has some value that I'm not really good at figuring out puzzles, but I'm trying to figure out this one. So here goes. The story was about two young men that had planted a crop together, and they had planted a crop for the purpose of using the money directly for God's work. And they had a very specific purpose for it. So they planted this crop and it did well. And the time came to harvest the crop. And this was a particular food item that if the crop was got damp, it would be ruined. And so they picked a time that they thought was going to work out and harvested the crop and had it all stacked and ready to transport. I guess they had to take it quite a distance. And as they began to go on the trip, there was rain everywhere. So they pulled underneath a bridge and waited for the rain to stop, but the rain didn't stop. It just kept up quite steadily. And so they decided to seek God's help and they prayed that the rain would cease, that they'd be able to continue their journey to deliver this harvested crop. So they waited and the rain did not subside. So they waited a little bit longer and the other young man decided that he would offer a prayer and approach the Lord again and ask him to make the rain quit. And so they prayed the second time, and I can't remember specifically every single detail, but they prayed a second time, and the rain did not cease. And so they really deliberated and sat there for quite a while, waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, at length, they were pretty perplexed about what to do. And after they had sat there for quite a while, they finally decided that they would just go ahead and drive and see what happened. Put their faith into action. So I'm sorry, my eyes are a little puffy today. I think it's the springtime weather. Um, this is the first time we've hit 50 degrees in a while. But at any rate, they continued on with their trip and they came out from underneath this overpass and said that the way the story went was that they could literally count the number of raindrops on the windshield and the weather just cleared and they could see where the rain had been and that it had rained pretty hard. And I think in some cases they could even, I've been places before where you can be, in one spot and it's not raining, but you can see the rain coming straight down in other areas, especially some time we spent in Florida, the rain comes straight down between 3 and 5 o'clock every afternoon in the rainy season. Those of you who live down there know all about that. But so they could literally see where the rain had been and where the rain was. And I think there had been hail damage in places in some of the fields. And they finally reached their destination and pulled this big truck into the barn. And no sooner, no sooner did they get in the barn than the storm cracked loose and the rain came down, in the locality where they were. So I was really impressed with that story from the standpoint that I'd probably be, I'd be probably sitting underneath that bridge for a week, and I'd be going to, walking to the Wendy's or the Arby's, the McDonald's for something to eat, and probably check into a hotel room and leave that truck sitting underneath that bridge for a week until the coast was all clear. So I've tried to learn from that story. I guess I'm gonna have to put a warning on this. It's not a preparedness story, but I've tried to learn from that story how to put that into action in other areas of my life. And in fact, I spent quite a lot of time praying about it because I'm not good at figuring things like that out. Some things I'm really good at figuring out, but not things like that. And so I'm trying to apply this. Sorry. It always looks like I got chocolate there and I haven't even any chocolate to eat. I don't know what it is. But anyways, I was always trying to apply this principle. And then the other thing I was thinking of had to do, this is going to sound a little odd, but it has to do with an ice cube tray. Um, you know, when you fill up an ice cube tray, Most of you probably, most of the younger people probably haven't even used ice cube trays because they probably had, you know, what do you call that, automatic ice makers all their life. But for those of us who remember ice cube trays, my mother actually used to put pudding in them because we had, our freezer was literally like this big in our old fridge, just about big enough to to put a half a gallon ice cream in there. That's about all you could fit in it. But it had a little underneath where it had room for the half a gallon ice cream. It had a place that would fit 2 metal ice cream trays. So she would make cooked butterscotch or vanilla pudding. I think maybe chocolate too, but I know butterscotch and vanilla puddings, and she would freeze them, and then we would have frozen pudding for, for our homemade ice cream. I don't know, I wonder if anybody else has done that. But anyway, maybe this is like an empty nest thing. I'm sure it could apply to other circumstances besides that. But when you fill up an ice cube tray, well, ours had the insert, the metal thing you set down. You had the tray, and then you set the insert down into the tray, and you pulled the lever back, and it would supposedly break into cubes. So it was actually 2 pieces, so the water ran underneath the divider. But with plastic ice cube trays, you know, you start to fill the tray with water, 6 minutes and 28 seconds. Let's see how quick I can get this finished. You get the water running into the tray, and then once one end of it is filled, it gravitates and moves down to fill up all those empty spots at the other end. Well, those of you who are empty nesters might be waiting for that little corner of your ice cube tray to fill up. And I think that in most cases it doesn't. Like for an empty nester, it doesn't really completely ever fill up again because you always, you know, have a spot for that grown adult who's left the nest. But there are other things that can fill up those little spots where it doesn't have to be an empty nester situation. I think it can be, you know, a number of situations where you have some kind of a loss, or all those people just last week alone that lost their homes in those terrible tornadoes. I know after my mother passed away, no, excuse me, before my mother died, we had to sell our house, and I had dreams about the house for, gosh, more than a year, I think, you know, just like losing the house. We didn't really lose the house. I mean, we sold it, but you know, the house was no longer in the family. We were no longer going to visit my mother there, and I dreamed and dreamed and dreamed about that house for the longest time. So I think even things like a family home can kind of leave you with an empty spot, and other things do kind of seep in and fill that spot. Like, I don't miss the house anymore. It's totally fine. I have memories. Planted 2 different maple trees in the front yard that are now huge and beautiful, and someday we might go drive by it again, but not anytime soon. So just I don't know what the ice cube tray has to do with anything, but it's a good visual for me. And I was gonna put it in a separate video, but I've been having this little glitch. I don't know if it's YouTube's glitch or if it's my glitch, but I get to make one video and then it won't work after that. So if I had tried to separate those two and make the first video and then make the video about the ice cube tray and try to keep it separate and shorter than 9 minutes, then I wouldn't have been able to do that. So you're stuck with 2 stories. I'll try to put a warning on the title. I am so glad to have the front door of this house open. It has been closed for a long, long time. We had such a hot summer last year that I was pretty well in the house most of the time, and just the breeze blows straight through the house in the spring and summer and fall, you know, if the weather isn't too crazy terrible. So it's just been aching to get this door open. So the birds are out there singing and the grass is turning green as we speak. Spring has sprung, and I'm really thankful. It just feels so nice to have this door open. Of course, I wanted fresh air in the wintertime, so when it was 32 degrees, I'd crank up the music and open the door anyway and leave it open for a good long time. We had some heating bills that reflected that as well. So, gee, I'm in a much better mood than I was earlier today. So God bless your efforts to prepare, and I hope that story will have a little meaning for you, and if not, well, it was entertaining, maybe. So take care, 10 minutes. Bye. Bye for now. Make a list, check it twice so you can eat more than just beans and just rice. And please remember when you watch these videos, just because I would doesn't mean you should. That about covers it. Thanks. Bye.